Now let's check in with our favourite independent MP, Di Lee, the member for Fowler. Di, great to see you. We're talking a lot and still constantly about the cost of living. Yesterday, we saw the GDP figures that give us an indication about how our economy is going. The only thing propping the economy up at the moment is migration and government spending. That is crowding business out, and it's also delaying a cut in the interest rate because it is fueling inflation. What's the government doing?
Well, not much. I think that, as you mentioned there, Laura, good morning to your audience. I think that, and I mentioned this before, government spending has really driven up inflation. And I think that it's, for me, our kind of productivity, it's lagging. Businesses aren't able to really grow their business, aren't able to operate. The cost of energy, the bills, insurance costs, freight costs, of course, the industrial relations changes that the government have pushed through have really impacted, in particular, small to medium-sized businesses here in Fowler and in Western Sydney. So, I think the question that people have to ask themselves, and I'm sure, RT people are asking, are we better off today than we were 3 years ago? And I can guarantee you they're not. I've had manufacturing round tables here a few weeks ago, talking to many of the small to medium-sized businesses here who've expressed their despair at the cost that they have to lay out in terms of, energy. They have had to, and also hard to also have any the labour market is the skill shortages as well. The trainee, I know that the government offered 500,000 places in TAFE, but a lot of the small to medium-sized businesses that I've engaged with have said that the skills that the courses that have been offered at TAFE aren't really addressing the skills that they are needing in many of these small to medium-sized manufacturing businesses, because they have specific skill needs, which really TAFE courses, the 500,000 places, do not address. So there's that issue there, the lack of government investment in apprenticeships and trade training for our community, people who are in those positions. So I know it's the Christmas period, and you don't want to you want to give people hope, but I know that in Fowler in particular and Western Sydney, people are really struggling, Laura. People outside of Western Sydney probably don't have that much issue in paying the high increase in high energy bills. They don't have an issue paying the high increase in insurance. They don't have an issue paying high rent, whether for business or for a personal. But here, can I say, here in Fowler and Western Sydney, people have expressed over and over how much they're hurting.
What's their view of what the government is doing? Because no one's suggesting any of these options are easy. Getting down inflation is really hard. This is, a COVID hangover in many ways. We have seen it around the world. But do you get the sense that people expected this government to do more? And are there any specifics?
Look, I think that, the government talked about bringing down the electricity bills, and being a Labor government as well. It's for working class, communities like Fowler. And I think they have given the $300 rebate for families, which is great. It's a small short-term handout. The issue for me is that in the planning around the energy transition, the money that has gone into, I think $50 billion has gone into ARENA, into some of those big institutions. But the whole energy mechanism, the volatility of the energy market, I think that there has been I feel that they're all operating in silo, and there's no kind of coordination, not sitting together and how to address the structural problem in order to bring down energy prices in the long term. At the moment, it seems like everything is very short term the short-term handout to alleviate just for the moment. But we will not, I don't think energy prices will not come down. So what will the government do to ensure that structurally the system, the mechanism will be in place in order for the long-term energy prices to be more stable? So that is a very big issue. And energy is everything, really.
It is.
You know, energy is critical to how we work, to how we live. Energy is the critical issue. So,
well, as you know, Di, I had one of your fellow Western Sydney MPs who happens to be the Energy Minister as well, Chris Bowen, on this program just last week, and I put that $275 reduction to him that he promised 3 years ago, and he seemed to double down on that. Is it believable? What did you think of that promise?
Oh, look, you know, I don't... when government make promises just prior to an election, I find that people get very cynical now that, you know, any, you know, ministers or shadow ministers, they come out and make this grand announcement, have this, you know, high, you know, a kind of headlining policy piece, really, but at the end of it, it doesn't really come down to the people. It's always big, high headlining policy pieces. And I think, you know, for the last 12 months, they talk